afternoon, everybody. Long time no see. Welcome back to Carrow Road. Today's game, Norwich City against West Brom Albion here in NL1. It's it's a glorious day at pitch level. It's quite cold set up here in the press box, but Norwich City's team news is out. There's one change for the Canaries this afternoon. Todd Cantwell drops out, and he is replaced by Gabriel Sara, who makes his first league start for Norwich City. So they line up like this: Tim Krul in goal, Aarons, Omar Ahmedeli. Grant Hanley does start despite concerns over a shoulder injury. Sam Byram at left back, midfield two of McLean and Nunez, and then I think it'll be Sargent on the right, Ramsey on the left, with Gabby Sara in the 10 behind Temu Pukki. The subs bench: McGovern, Gibson, Hugill, Dow, Campbell, Sinani and Hernandez. One league change that from Wednesday night's win over Bristol City. Let's bring in Paddy Davitt. Pad, I mean, I wrote a column this morning about Gabriel Sara starting today, and it feels like we've been probably building up to this point for the last few games, the last few weeks. He's finally going to get an opportunity. What do you make of that decision to drop out Todd Cantwell and put in the Brazilian?
I don't think that'll be one that'll raise an eyebrow on both levels, really. I mean, funnily enough, we talked about it in this setting pre-match midweek. It felt like it was a night maybe Todd could take a step forward. Didn't really happen, albeit probably more down to the way Bristol City went about it, and they were very good and caused Norwich's midfield a lot of problems. Smith, prior to half-time, changed pretty much four positions, kept the same personnel, but then second half he changed it up considerably, and of course part of that changing was Gabby Sara coming in to my left here in the corner where the snake pit and the Barkley is. He created his first assist for Norwich in Championship colours with the corner headed home by Josh Sargent. They needed it, as it turned out, that breathing space, and Smith has decided to switch those two in from the start today. So you were down there Friday, you had a chat on this topic with Dean Smith. Maybe you could sort of talk a bit about the sense you got from him, but clearly his team news would tell you that he feels it's now the time for Gabby Sara to stake his claim, and partly a reflection maybe Todd hasn't really grasped it quite in the way he would have hoped, and it's now there for Gabby Sara. He would have been, as Dean, I mean, I did get Dean on this topic the previous week, and he said every time he names the team at the training ground, he can see the disappointment etched on Gabby Sara's face. Well, not today, or not yesterday, probably, when he named the team. And that he needs to follow up his cameo midweek with another eye-catching performance. I'm really interested to see now. We're starting to see perhaps what was in Dean Smith's mind when he went out and brought in a Hayden, a Nunez and a Zara. Hayden potentially will be back the other side, not long after the other side of this coming international break, but he's got Nunez and he's got Zara in his side today. So I'm intrigued to see what could be the start of Norwich's central midfield under Dean Smith for the remainder of the season. But for that to be the case, Gabby Sara has to perform today, because it's a very hot area of the squad. And other than that, positive news that Big Grant is fit. That was a bit of a concern. The fact it was the same shoulder he clearly had injured last season in the Premier League here against Manchester United. But he's a warrior, isn't he? So probably not so surprised that he's declared himself fit. But other than that, intriguing maybe on one level that he has retained his faith in 10 of the 11 who started midweek, because I don't think he was overly impressed with the performance from a lot of those players. So maybe the fact that he actually got the win in the end just tipped his thinking just towards, well, ultimately these are the group who've won us 6 in the spin. Wasn't overly happy with the performance midweek, but it was another win. Go again and prove what I think, and that is very much clearly at this stage that's his best 11 if you're Dean Smith.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. Stuck mute button there. West Brom line up like this: 4-2-3-1 for them this afternoon. Button in goal, Furlong, O'Shea, Townsend, and debut for Eric Peters at left back. Malumbe and Livermore, the midfield two. Jed Wallace on the right. John Swift in the 10 with Diane Gunner on the left. And Thomas Asante, formerly of Salford City, up front this afternoon. Their subs bench: Palmer. I can actually read it here. Phillips, Kelly, Carlin Grant, Adam Reach, Gardner Hickman, and OK Yokozuna, who was a slight doubt, I think, for this game, so probably no surprise to see him on the bench. And Pat, you mentioned Grant Hanley there, who obviously has slight concern. We saw him withdrawn early from Wednesday's win over Bristol City with that shoulder injury, which seems to be kind of a reoccurring one from last season, which was suffered maybe what game was this? Was it? I'm trying to think now.
And United.
Man United, that's the one. So it's good to see him declared fit. Also, well, for him as well, he's got an international breakaway with Scotland and potentially 3 games. So Dean Smith did say that they would go by his understanding of his own body, and he has clearly decided that he's fit enough to start this afternoon.
Yeah, and it's kind of encapsulates what he's all about, really. It would have to be quite a serious ailment, I think, for that man not to declare himself fit. Ben Gibson on the bench again, he got his opportunity, having been quite patient in those recent games. But if you're Grant Hanley, you're probably thinking, I really don't want to open the door here, and Ben Gibson comes in. The difference being him and an Omobama Daly pairing gives you that natural balance. And Dean Smith talked about that last week, that he's got 4 right footers in his back 4 currently, and he's in an ideal world, that's not where he wants to be. So I guess if you're Grant Hanley, you don't want to give any opportunity. There's something building there really positively. The results tell you that with him and Omobama Daly, and if he's physically able to go again, he's an experienced player as well. So I don't think it's a case of, funny enough, I can't think now, but I did see some comments from Bruce, and I'm not sure who they related to, but they obviously had a big derby in midweek against Birmingham, and one of their key players declared himself fit, and I don't think his performance on the night, they got beat again, obviously, to increase the pressure on Steve Bruce, but I don't think his performance was at the level it would have been. And the comments post-match from Steve Bruce were almost along the lines of, well, maybe I trusted the player a little bit too much. I can't see that being a scenario with Grant Hanley. If he didn't feel he was ready, he's an experienced player. He won't jeopardise the overall team. So, and it's important because I think him and Omobama Daly have really established themselves now as the first choice central defenders. And as proven again, for long spells against Bristol City, it was a bit of a grind, and that back 4 were tested as they were at Sunderland previously. And you just feel with a Hanley in there, as opposed to Ben Gibson, for me anyway, a little bit reassured that you have a player with all that experience who can, even when there's a bit of a backs against the wall mentality, who would you rather have in your back 4 than Grant Hanley? So I hope that isn't the case today, and it's a bit more comfortable for him. But my initial fear was, given it was the shoulder that he'd injured last season, we might not see him today. So that's a major positive. But with Ben Gibson in the mix, I don't think he would have let anybody down today necessarily. But I'm certainly of the opinion that who are Norwich's 2 best centre backs currently, and it's Hanley and Omobama Daly. So the fact that they're still together bodes well. For what, again, it's an interesting one. You look at the results with West Brom, you think, well, should only go one way today, but not seen too much of them. Anecdotally, though, Dean Smith again talking about it Friday, that their performances are a lot better maybe than their results, but possibly where Norwich were in those first 3 games of this season. I certainly see their players and their grade of player, and for this level, they should be doing far better than they are. So they have ability. Bruce hasn't managed to extract it thus far, and we'll see how fragile the confidence is if Norwich can get themselves in front and start well. Because it might go, it might go one or 2 ways today. So it's a difficult one to forecast this for me. You look at the team sheet; they've got good players, but something isn't quite happening there at the minute. The results tell you that. So, but fundamentally, it's about Norwich, and I mean, a win again today, 7 on the spin, already 4 points clear of 3rd place. If they could extend that going into this international break, what a wonderful position! What a wonderful platform to kick on the other side with. We all hope. It's not too far away. Hayden. Bit further on, maybe Sorensen and McCallum, Adamida, Liam Gibbs. I mean, it would really feel with results as they are and that quality of player to come back in, that the wind is firmly at the backs of these Norwich players.
You mentioned Liam Gibbs. I can see him actually just in front of the home dugout. It doesn't look like he's in a boot now, unless my eyesight is deceiving me. So that would be good news for kind of his progress as well. You mentioned that the players coming back. I mean, just to turn our attention back on the lineup today, I guess the other noticeable one to talk about is Aaron Ramsey, who's going to be in a slightly different role today, we suspect, because of Gabby Sara's inclusion. I think it's likely that he gets shifted out to the left-hand side. What kind of impact do you think that will have on him and his game, and probably Norwich's overall balance? Because we've spoken a lot about the fact that left side is pretty much made up of 2 right footers again, which naturally forces them inside. It can create kind of lopsidedness. So what do you think it will do for Aaron Ramsey, and then what do you think it will do for Norwich City's team widely?
Well, it's an interesting one. Basically, the way you've set that one up, Connor, is with and without the ball. And without the ball, if he is playing in front of Byram, given the problems they had down that left-hand side against Bristol City, different team today, I know, but Bruce has been around the block long enough. He'll have watched the footage, I'm sure, of that game midweek and looked how vulnerable at times Norwich were on that left-hand side. And if it is Ramsey in front of Byram, and on Steve Bruce and West Brom, I'm looking to expose that again. So that would be a concern. Kenny McLean, you would hope, would as he did second half, I thought he was excellent in terms of screening here midweek. Really used all his experience. He'd need to be plugged in again if that is the setup down the left-hand side. But then going forward, again, another assist for him and Aaron Ramsey, and he really looks like a player who maybe had a few doubts in his own mind when he first got here about the Championship and what it was all about and whether his game would necessarily translate as easily as you would have hoped. That's been allayed now, since that game at Hull when he really should have scored that day. I think since then he's been, I think the next one actually from memory was the Sunderland game where he came on and, for me, changed that game. Norwich were really on the back foot. There only looked like one result that day on Wearside, that Saturday morning kickoff. He came on and he was excellent. And actually on that day, I think he was stationed nominally on the left-hand side. So I've got no concerns about him in possession. Very, very good player, gifted footballer. Only going to get better the more games he plays. But defensively, yeah, you'd have to have a concern because I don't think that's his game. And we saw it in the League Cup, didn't we? And I know it was Springett playing at left back, not Byram that night. But against Bournemouth again, defensively, they looked a bit suspect. And they certainly were vulnerable down that side midweek. But Dean Smith will know that. And I'm sure Kenny McLean comes into the equation if that's the way it ends up. And it is Zara more central, with Ramsey left. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if it is the other way and he keeps Ramsey in the middle. Zara naturally gives you that balance on the left-hand side. Maybe a bit more athletic than Aaron Ramsey and can get up and down that flank. So it'll be interesting to see how they go from the start. But ultimately, I think with Nunes and McLean there, I'm less concerned about the defensive side of that equation.
Yep, let's see how it transpires. I know you said that this is going to be a very difficult one to forecast, but I'm about to throw that in your direction and ask you to do so. How do you see this one going? Because I think you did say that. Dean Smith did say it yesterday. West Brom have lost the same amount of games as Norwich this season, only 2, but they've only won 1, 6 draws in there. Some good performances, but perhaps not necessarily the results to back those up. It does feel like potentially at some point this West Brom team will click. Whether that comes under Steve Bruce or not is probably another debate, but potentially a tricky afternoon for Norwich City when you cast your eyes down the opposition team sheet. Kind of also ends what's been 2 really potentially tricky home games on paper. And if Norwich City can emerge with their 7th successive win, it does feel like we'll be looking at it and saying, yeah, this if we weren't already, and saying this Norwich City side is definitely serious challenges for the Championship this season.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking there, Con, I just had a look at, you broke it down in terms of wins, draws and losses, but, they drew with Watford and they've drawn with Burnley, and I'd fully expect those 2 teams to be up there come the end of the season in the shake-up. So you have to give them due respect. Then you overlay that with some of the quality Dean Smith himself talked about. Was it John Swift? He'd worked with him, and what a good player he is. I've always liked Jed Wallace as well. I thought that was an astute signing. You've got experience there in Peters and Livermore, and 1 or 2 young players. So it feels a matter of when rather than if they do click. But as you rightly say, given the noise around Steve Bruce, he might not be the man who takes them forward. But I'd be very surprised if come the end of the season that they're not in and around the playoff picture. They might have left themselves a little bit too much to do in terms of automatic already. But it's a club that feels like it's geared to be competing at the right end. And it might turn out we might look back at 5 o'clock tonight and feel that Norwich have got West Brom at the right point and caught them just on a low part of their cycle. But I'd fully expect them to cause Norwich a few problems today. But it is hard to look past the Norwich win. So, I'm going to probably go 2-1 today. I don't think it'll be a feet up job with 70 minutes gone and we can look forward to the international break. I think they'll have to work for it. But you just think 2 clubs, 2 sets of players on different trajectories right here, right now, that Norwich should have enough about them just to get their noses over the line and then complete what's been an unbelievable turn since those opening first 3 very frustrating championship games. And that'll be, if they get the win tonight, whatever you think about Dean Smith, you cannot argue with 7 straight wins in the league. It's a phenomenal achievement.
Absolutely, I'm going the same outcome, but an extra goal for Norwich, and we go 3-1 this afternoon. I think Norwich will have enough to get past this West Brom team, like you say, a good period in time to be playing them as well. It'll be interesting if that result does come to pass, what that means for Steve Bruce's immediate future, with an international break, of course, coming up as well, which we know clubs look to should they wish to change their manager. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. I'll run through that Norwich team again for those who joined us slightly later. Tim Krul in goal, Aaron Omar-Mamadeli, Grant Hanley does make it, Sam Byram completes the back four. We're expecting Nunez and McLean to be the midfield two, with Sargent on the right, Ramsey on the left, and Gabriel Sara in the 10 behind Timu Pukki. Todd Campbell drops to the bench in what is Norwich City's only change in terms of their match day squad. Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, if you want to follow the action this afternoon, you can go to the Pinkham Plus app. I'm on the live blog all afternoon. I will updates, debate, all of that good stuff. So make sure you join me there. If you're yet to sign up for your free trial, pinkham.com, tab in the top left. You know the drill by now. Follow all the details, and you'll be able to get access to plenty of exclusive content. There's Carrow Road in all its glory. Thank you very much. Enjoy the afternoon if you come to Carrow Road, and we'll see you again very soon.